And welcome everybody to this week's exciting episode.
Cheese grommet.
We forgot the cheese. I love that.
Wensleydale.
Gromit's just silent, like just rolling his eyes.
Does he ever make any noise?
I don't think so.
He's a bit like Silent Bob, isn't he?
Yeah.
Just like a silent character.
Yeah.
Classic Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah, classic. And they went to the moon.
They did. And if you don't know what we're talking about, then maybe you're just too young for the pod.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know. Wallace and Gromit's got to be out there everywhere, isn't it? Surely.
I know it's in the UK. I'm sure other people have heard of it.
Anybody who hasn't heard of Wallace and Gromit, let us know.
Yeah. Right in.
I'm sure it's an international thing. It must be. Wallace and Gromit.
The best one was by far the penguin. Do you remember the one with the penguin?
The wrong trousers.
Yeah.
With the electronic automated trousers.
Yeah.
And he goes to rob the diamond. That's brilliant.
Yeah, an evil genius penguin.
Yeah. I think penguins are evil geniuses.
Yes, yeah. Not our penguin, though. He's a genius, but he's not evil.
Oh, I don't know.
You think he's got it in him?
Oh, I don't know, yeah.
He could be robbing banks and we just wouldn't know.
Yeah, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, he is smart enough for that.
He is. And he's done this awesome T-shirt that I'm wearing today. Look, I managed to get one. The alien face on it.
Very, very realistic looking.
It's pretty scary, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to come across him in a dark alley.
Or in a cornfield.
Yeah, well, a cornfield, I'd like my chances more in a cornfield than an alley. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, yeah, I love this T-shirt. I've got to say, I've worn it several times now since I got it. And, it did catch a few eyes when I was in the supermarket the other day. A few weird looks. Probably more so than the normal one. The one that I've got with the actual the podcast logo with the UFO and that. I remember catching a few eyes walking through central Cambridge with that one. This one, walking through just around a supermarket, I got loads of people giving me weird looks. So,
I mean, the alien's pretty outstanding.
It is pretty convincing looking alien, isn't it? Yeah. And you can get one yourself at https://paranormalityuk.mymercher.
My mercher.
And don't just put in www. Because apparently that doesn't work.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it has to be https://
We're going to have to sort that
honestly, because when I went to buy this one, I just put in www.paranormalityuk.mymercher, and it took me to this page that said, "Oh, this shop will be up and running soon." I was like, "Penguin? Not penguin, polar bear. Polar bear? What's going on?" And he was like, "No, it's up and running. It's working." And I was like, "Well, send me the link." And he sent me the link, and it started with HTTPS. And I was like, "Well, why does it work on HTTPS and not www? And I don't know. I don't either. So but either way, I was still able to buy T-shirts with the HTTPS thing.
But what's annoying is we've been plugging that for how long?
I know. I've now got to go back through every single episode with a link to our merch and make sure that it's now HTTPS rather than www.
What about if they typed in the search engine just Paranormality UK My Mercher? That would surely
It might work. Let us know. Try that at home. Try it and let us know if it works. Yeah. I know that if you just put in at the at sign and Paranormality UK, our stuff comes up straight away, top.
Oh, nice.
Top of the search. But yeah, I don't know.
Those poor people that have been wanting merch all this time, they're like, it's not working.
Like, give me that alien T-shirt. It just tells me that the site's up and running soon. I want it now, damn it. Well, you can get it now. You just need to put in HTTPS.
Do you know what? That's already annoyed me. The fact you've said it 3 times and I'm already like, make it easier. Like, it's frustrating.
I can't. I'm not a tech genius. I'll have to get Penguin on it or something.
Yeah, we'll sort it out.
Penguin and Polar Bear will sort it out. We'll get www. working. We will.
All right. We'll sort that out.
Anyway, on to today's episode.
Yeah, what we doing, bro?
Well, to start with, I wanted to ask you a very serious question.
Yeah.
Look at me. Look at me.
Yep.
Right. I need to know if you know the difference between a bog and a swamp.
Okay. Swamps. I'm thinking green, There's lots of bacteria, potential frogs and lily pads.
I mean, the main similarity is water.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of water.
Ah, a bog, isn't it more like marshy, more mud?
Yeah. Well, peat.
What's peat?
It's
I
well,
know,
okay.
I know a
well,
bloke called Pete.
Let me break it down for you, right? Okay, a swamp, let's say, like say the swamps in like Florida.
Yeah.
Normally, like a more warmer climate, hotter, and it's just land that has a lot of water around it. You know, it's very waterlogged, and plants will grow up through the water. A bog differs somewhat. It grows in more, I think the word is temperate climates, like a bit colder. A lot of Europe has bogs, but don't really have swamps. It's not warm enough. Swamps have a lot of mosquitoes, bogs don't. But bogs, the plants that grow there tend to degrade in the water, and then you get a lot of this peat. It forms peat. It's bioorganic matter, but it's not quite compost. If you know what I mean?
Right, okay.
And yeah, it's very good at preservatives. It's full of nutrients and that sort of thing. But it is basically rotting plant matter that you don't so much get in the swamps.
Okay, so swamps are more thriving than bogs are.
Yeah. It tends to, because of the warmer climate, it tends to break things down, you know, and everything settles to the bottom. And the bottom of the swamp is quite nasty. Whereas a bog tends to build up layer upon layer upon layer. And then it compresses it down into peat. And peat is a good preservative. There's been a lot of like bodies and stuff, like, you know, Stone Age bodies and stuff that have been dug out of peat bogs that are almost perfectly preserved. They've still got skin on their bones and that sort of thing. And we've been able to, you know, examine specimens of human life from 10,000 years ago that have been buried in bogs.
That's interesting.
And the reason why I asked is because what put me on to the main theme for today's episode was one of our listeners, Del from Estonia, joined our Discord, and she put on one of our Discord channels, have you looked into the Kaiu Bog in Estonia? Apparently it's one of the most paranormal places in Estonia. And I thought, I've never heard of this place, but it's interesting. Like the picture that she'd put up on there, got like UFOs flying around there. I was like, oh, I need to look into this place. So I went to a popular search engine and put in Kaiu Bog, and all I really got was Google Maps, and not really a lot else that wasn't in native Estonian that I could actually read and research. I did get a little bit, and I'll cover that in a little while. But while I was looking into this Kaiu Bog, I came across a forum, if you like, a website. The headline of this exact forum on the website, I think it was called abovetopsecret.com.
Oh,
Yeah.
more than top secret then.
Yeah. And all these forum people, the people who are on the forum, this forum dated back to like 2010. This particular article.
Okay.
And it said, have you heard about the 10,000-year-old UFO buried in Estonia in someone's back garden? And I was, no, I haven't heard about that, but I want to know about it.
Okay. So I'm guessing today's episode is about the 10,000-year-old UFO in someone's back garden in Estonia.
It is, yeah.
Ah.
Now, how would you imagine that a UFO, a 10,000-year-old UFO, got buried in someone's back garden? It's a puzzler.
I mean, the obvious one would be it just crash landed and stayed there.
You're kind of not far off. Yeah. Right, so the best theory, I'll say, is that some point maybe over 10,000 years ago, this UFO crashed into a glacier.
Oh, okay.
All right, got wedged in the glacier, and obviously glaciers move, the ice flows downhill towards the sea over time, and we know that it must have been around 10,000 years ago because 10,000 years ago, the Ice Age ended and the glaciers melted, particularly in that part of the world, in Estonia. The Ice Age ended, glaciers thawed out. The UFO would have then obviously travelled through the glacier to the location near the sea. The ice melted, left it on the ground, and then over the last 10 millennia, whatever that word is, it's got buried again. And it was buried around about 8 meters under the ground. Yeah?
8 meters under the ground.
Yeah, 8 meters. That is probably around about the same height as a normal UK 2-floor house. Right up to the very top of the picture roof.
That's a fair distance.
Yeah, it's quite a depth.
It's a few car lengths.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I say, it got buried in someone's back garden.
Now, I'm just thinking here. If I had a UFO in my garden, I would flip it upside down and fill it with sand. And then you've got a cooler version of the big sand turtle pits. Remember those?
Yeah.
I think, what else could you do with the UFO?
The problem is, it was 8 meters underground. Now,
yeah.
Now, what would, the way this came to light is on that abovetopsecret.com, someone came across a news article, an online news article from Estonia that was at the time. Bearing in mind this forum was made in 2010, and the news article was quite a few years earlier than that.
Are you going to read Estonian?
No.
Oh, that would be impressive.
Because someone on the website, on abovetopsecret.com, one of the contributors to the forum, translated the news article.
Oh, okay. That's probably better then.
You'd think so. It is quite broken. I'm going to try my best to put it into straightforward English. Okay. But this is the article, okay? So, some years ago, it does say a number, but that's not relevant at the moment. Some years ago, in Tallinn, Merivalja, I think that's how it's pronounced. My Estonian is not like my English.
Dale, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. If I'm mispronouncing any of this, don't hate. I'm trying my best. Okay, but in Tallinn, Merivalja, there is an area of Tallinn near the sea, and Meri means sea. And it began with a mystery that till now is unsolved. What still hides in the yard of the house of Hobikusi Road? An unknown object, a UFO, or simply a hoax? Hobby ufologist Hans Raudsik has for many years kept his eye on this. He has hours of videotapes made with the woman of the house, Vilvika Mitiga, something like that. The story goes, and this would go back some years now, the story goes back in 1969. The homeowners decided to dig a well. The owner of the house, Virgo, dug down to 7 to 8 meters deep and hit something hard which he could not get around. He said it was a round shape and a metallic-like thing. On the top was totally smooth, but on the bottom it was rougher. It was just a few centimeters thick. He brought a jackhammer or an air hammer or some kind of cutting instrument to tear through the plate, and so he could carry on digging his well. He worked on the plate for a long time and managed to get it to break into a few pieces. And he filled a bucket with these pieces. The metallic thing stayed for several weeks. No one was interested in it much. The well was finished. Virgo buried some of the pieces in the backyard as he finished at filling in some of the hole, but he left one of the pieces, kept a hold of one of the pieces for the memory of it. He showed this piece to a geologist who gave it to the Geological Institute, and the director of the Geological Institute put it on a shelf and left it there for quite a few years, a number of years. And at some point, a colleague of his picked up the piece one day and he got an electrical shock from it.
Okay.
Yeah. Literally, like, it just picked it up off the shelf and went, oh, what's this? And
Like
just like that shock thing did on our 100th episode.
Okay, so a bit more than like static.
Yeah, I guess so. Something enough to cause him alarm. And this is when the attention started to be brought to this piece of metal. If the man had not picked it up, the subject would not have been investigated further. Now, the director of the institute started to have tests made on the piece of metal. He kept journals about it for several years, getting it tested in various places. A lot of people reacted differently if they picked up the piece. For some people, nothing happened at all. Other people got an electric shock. Some people claimed that they got cold shivers, and some people claimed it was hot to the touch.
Okay, that's interesting.
It is interesting. I will come up with a theory on this in a little while.
Okay.
Just bear that in mind. Different reactions. Okay? So, what happened to finish the investigation was they sent the piece to Russia to a special laboratory to find out whether it was a natural metal or man-made, or, artificially made. He cut the piece up into small pieces or broke it off somehow and sent it to Moscow to various different institutes. The answer took time. By this point, it was 1982 or 1983, it's unclear. But they sent back a report saying that this is made of some metal that is not possible in known abilities to make at this time. So far as we can know, at least, not possible. This was the answer.
So not from Earth, then?
Not that they know, not by no human known... in the 1980s, in 1982, there was no known method of making this particular alloy of metal. This was absolute fact, they have stated. This is what it says in the article. The homeowners, where they obviously dug it up, were then told, you live on a very special place. The house is on a very secret thing. And in 1984, people started to get curious about this property and what was underneath it. From Moscow, a man called Alexander Dejev travelled to the house. He was once, it says, he once being Protection Ministry Information Advisor. That's the best English that they've come up with. So, yeah, he was some kind of Ministry of Information. He was an advisor for that, for the Soviet Union at the time.
Important job.
Yeah, an important job. And also a man named Nikolai Sotenavov, who was a geologist and mineralogist. And he said that this place where the object is should not be made known to the people.
Ah, top secret.
Yeah.
Above top secret.
Above top secret, yeah, maybe. The woman of the house was told to protect the property and keep watch, as pieces of this thing was also buried in the yard. No one else was allowed in the yard anymore without security clearance.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay. So Dejev decided to get a bunch of people in to now dig another hole. You know, I'm guessing the well wasn't really much of they didn't really think much of the well. It wasn't really important to them. They just started digging up this woman's back garden to see the object, to see what object this metal fragment had come from. And they all it says is 12-meter hole was dug. I don't know if that's deep or wide or what, but
okay.
Right.
I would imagine going down. I would imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine. They said even the telephone line workers were surprised with the digging and what they saw. Then rumours started that a UFO was being unearthed at this address.
Oh dear.
This caught the attention of someone called Marina Popovit. She was the wife of a cosmonaut, a Russian astronaut, and she went to the location, and there she declared that the Estonians have found a UFO in their land and it must be immediately taken up and shipped to Moscow for study. Now, I'm just going to cover this because it's fairly important. Now, Marina Popovich, however you say that,
Great
she
name.
was a military test pilot for the Soviet Union. That's how she sort of made a career for herself. And when her military career finished, she took up being a UFO investigator because of all the stuff that she'd seen during her...
as a pilot?
Yeah, as a pilot.
Okay.
She claimed to have seen motherships that were kilometres in length.
Wow.
In orbit around the Earth and in at ridiculous heights above the Earth. And she'd seen many, many UFOs. She and I think her husband... both became very keen ufologists, researchers into ufology, and so that's why she was called in to investigate this piece.
Yeah, and you said her husband's a Russian astronaut as well.
Yeah, he was an astronaut.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair play. There is some credence to
There
this woman.
definitely is, yeah. So Dejev, the original researcher, he thought the disc belonged to a known very powerful Earth Federation, which for a long time had been known in Estonia for over 100 years, some place with the name Kaiu, where plates are known to rise and descend. One was even known to be 70 kilometers large, a UFO rising and lowering from this Kaiu swamp, this Kaiu region. It is true in Kaiu, in this area, is seen often rising and falling strange objects. So that's broken English, but particularly Estonian to English is hard to translate because they obviously, you've got your adjectives come after your nouns and stuff like that, and even the actual punctuation is completely different in Estonian, apparently. So it's very difficult to directly translate from Estonian to English. That's why all of this is kind of broken. So then Dejev wanted to evict many of the homeowners around the neighbourhood, tell them all to get out of their houses. They put a big fence around it. This, though, just stayed as it was and did not progress. Dejev left Estonia in 1988, so 4 years they were looking in this hole.
What, and the neighbours had to move and everything? For 4
yeah, that's what it
years?
says.
Wow.
They only left when the Estonian Revolution for Freedom began, at the end of the Soviet Union.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So all of this happened back in the time when Russia was known as the USSR. I know a lot of younger viewers listeners won't even remember that time. I do. You probably barely. I don't know if you would have or not.
I've heard of the USSR, but it was because of the Street Fighter game.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because is it M. Bison?
It was from the USSR.
Yeah.
Even in my house, we've got a globe, one of them little desktop globes, and over Russia it says, the United Soviet, whatever it was called, Republic, USSR. Yeah, it's from that time. But yeah, USSR was a thing. It was Russia and surrounding countries that was just one big republic.
So I'm guessing that must be more recent than I'm thinking. It's got to be like
I think it was about
70s, 80s.
88, 89, I think it fell, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay. Oh, yeah, I suppose that makes sense because the Street Fighter game would have been early 90s, late 80s.
Oh, yeah, late 80s.
So it would have been okay, all right. I'm
fair play.
piecing things together now.
Yeah, so then Dejev wanted... Oh, sorry, no, hang on, I've been that bit. Pieces of metal in Moscow have now disappeared. One piece was sent back from Moscow to Estonia, but that has now mysteriously disappeared as well. So many lives on this street went to hell soon after the site was dug open wider. And a lot of more people, because obviously at this point, the Russian military had been in control of the site up until then, but with the fall of the Soviet Union, they gave up the rights to that land or any claim on it. And she said that is when people's lives went to hell. So many people started coming to the site now. Rumour had spread, nighttime especially. Many people at night in the hole to try and make contact. The woman of the house said she was very disturbed by all the people, no peace any time of day or night. There was always something at the place. The family was bothered. They wanted people to just leave, stop digging in the hole, stop trying to excavate this thing. And eventually, the closing of the site in November the 6th, 1988, that's what happened. They started to cover the object. Right away, when the first bucket of earth was poured into the hole, near the house, in the air, this is what it says, was heard a very hard noise. Everyone went outside to see what it was, but what had now happened, suddenly the sky turned blue, black and white, like the Estonian flag. So a loud bang of some sort, I think, is what that describes, a hard noise. And yeah, the nighttime sky lit up blue, black and white.
Okay.
November the 15th, the work was complete. The hole was completely filled in.
Right, okay.
Okay? And on the 16th, the day after, they held a public meeting in the town hall. And Radzic was heading the meeting, and it says, to him came a stranger. And he said, no, that doesn't make sense. He said, you have done a very good thing. You have protected everyone by filling in this hole. And he left, never introducing himself, never saying his name. And to this day, Radzic wonders who this man was. Now, another famous anomaly researcher from Estonia, a man named Igor Volk, says that the Hobokusi tea house hides two objects. The bigger is an elliptical object, 17 meters by 22 meters. And a smaller one that is just 2 meters by 4 meters and shaped like an apple. Well, it says pom shaped, but I'm guessing pom is apple in most European languages, so I'm guessing pom shaped means apple shaped.
Le pomme.
Yeah. He thinks they could be a UFO, which can move very fast among many places. It could maybe be a signal generator, maybe to help UFO navigation, or some kind of navigation marker. Perhaps that's what these objects are. That is the end of the news article that's been translated.
It's a real mystery, man.
Yeah.
Real mystery. So I'm guessing the Russians ended up with the UFO then?
No.
No.
No. Now, I'll get to that. Just give me a few minutes right now. So one of the main things that I wanted to point out, right, is obviously the sample that was taken from it and the results, because it didn't say in the article. I had to dig through further online to find out what the sample results were. And the results were, it was 80% iron, 5% titanium, yeah, that's 85%, and the remaining 15% was made up of gallium, germanium, niobium, indium, thorium, and silver. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, that's
quite an alloy.
Yeah.
It's no wonder that they claimed that they couldn't create that back in 1988 or 1984 when it was discovered.
But 80% iron.
Mm-hmm.
Iron's quite heavy.
Yeah.
I've always thought UFOs were light, if you know what I mean. Like, I suppose, I mean, it's UFOs, so whether they exist or not is a different story. But iron just seems really heavy to be 80%.
It is. And what happened, they even went on to say it's non-homogeneous.
Would you call me?
non-homogeneous. I'm not entirely sure what that means myself, and I'm the smart one. But I think what it means is it has varying degrees of hardness, and the hardness rating was ranged between 241 kilograms per square meter and 1,277 kilograms per square meter. So that's like the density of it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Just
you know how like lead and feathers.
Yeah.
You know what they say? Would you rather move a ton of lead or a ton of feathers?
It's the same, isn't it?
Well, it weighs the same, but a ton of feathers is a much bigger object to move than a ton of lead, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what they were saying. The variation in that density and within those pieces of metal was so wild. It was literally like a metric ton in a kilogram per square meter, or in a square meter. A lot. Now, I know that you're intrigued about the electric shock.
Yes.
And the possible people got cold shivers and felt it was hot to the touch.
Yeah.
It could be the gallium in it that is responsible for this, because gallium is known to have this response. Now, gallium is not a naturally forming metal. It forms in salts, I believe. I've got it somewhere in a note here, if I can pull it out. Yeah. From Wikipedia article on gallium, is a chemical element that has the symbol Ga and atomic number 31. Elemental gallium does not occur in nature, but as the gallium-3 salt in trace amounts of bauxite and zinc ores. Often a soft, silvery, metallic poor metal, elemental gallium is a brittle, solid at low temperatures as it liquefies slightly above room temperature. Now, have you ever seen people on like TikTok and stuff pouring gallium on laptops and suddenly it melts through and they can just break their laptop into little pieces? That's the kind of effect that gallium has on other metals, particularly aluminium. It's mostly used these days as a semiconductor in LEDs, light emitting diodes, things that you find in car headlights these days, or little lights.
Okay.
But it's also known to be like a healing property, where people put gallium, if they rest gallium on like sores on their skin, or stuff like that, it actually soothes the sores and can heal skin afflictions.
How have I never heard of gallium before?
Have you not?
If it does all this crazy stuff.
Because it's such a rare metal. It's only mined in certain places in the world, and some of those are kind of dodgy mining areas. But yeah, it's quite a rare metal, but it does have healing properties on the skin.
It sounds great, gallium.
Yeah, but apparently it is one of those metals that is known to produce these reactions. Some people claim that holding gallium, they get electric shocks from it. Some people claim that it will give them the cold shivers. Some people claim that it's hot to the touch.
So it changes.
Yeah, but that must have been a major part of the 15% of that alloy that was making up this metal that apparently is totally unknown of to be able to make at that time in the early 80s in anywhere in Europe, at least. I don't know if in the US they were making that. But from their excavations, like I said, they found two objects. One of them, I can't remember how many meters I said it was, but I think it was 66 feet across this ellipse. It tapered from something like 10 to 13 feet thick in the middle to literally nothing at the outside. In fact, where the well was, what was his name? Virgo started digging the hole originally in 1969. He said that all he had to get through was 10 centimeters of thickness of this metal. So he was nowhere near the center of it. They dug up the entire garden to find more of it.
Yeah, I'm with you. He would have had the edges.
Yeah, he'd have been at the edge of this thing. And now, to come back to your question, because this is quite a big one. This was not found in the article, but one of the translators, who was an Estonian member of the public, I don't know if there was a man or woman, but in the in that above top secret forum, one of the translators on there came along and they said this was not in the article, but I can remember seeing news reports at the time stating, because she was local to the area, or he was local to they were local to the area. Like I say, I don't know if it was a man or woman. And they said when the Soviets tried to excavate it, they tried to remove it completely so that they could take it back to Moscow and study it, but it thwarted their attempts at removing it from the ground and just dug itself in further, which is the reason why they ended up leaving it there and just filling in the hole.
So it's still there?
It's still there. I have the address.
Oh, don't read it out.
I'm not going to read it. People could go online and find it. But yeah, it's in Tallinn, in Estonia, Hobikusi Street. That's fairly prevalent. You know, I've already said it before. I'm not going to say exactly what the address is, but apparently, yes, it's still there, buried underneath it. And I don't want everybody to go start flooding under this house in Estonia, because as far as I know, this house has been passed down from the woman who was there at the time to her family, to her children, and they still live there, from what I can gather.
That's fair.
And I don't want people to go knocking on their doors and you know, disturbing them with this 30-odd, 40-year-old mystery. You're better off leaving it where it is, because, like I say, the head researcher was approached by a guy who said, you know, you're better off leaving it. You've done a good thing. Better filled in the hole, left it to whatever end. You know. Now there was one more theory that came up that I didn't actually write down in my notes, but someone came up with a suggestion that it could have been an RTG, which is a radioisotope thermic generator, which generally these things are used in like spacecrafts and stuff like this. It's like a battery that will last for like 10,000 years because it's radioisotopes. It's nuclear.
Oh, okay.
So they'll use it in like satellites that have gone out to Jupiter, or you know, like the New Horizons that went out to Pluto, you know, stuff like that, where they need to create electricity for a very, very long time, years and years and years, without having to recharge a battery. They use what's known as an RTG. And apparently the Russians, towards the end of the Cold War in the 70s and 80s, were burying these things all over Europe to be used by their military. But I haven't seen any evidence that an RTG is an elliptical shape, 13 feet in thickness, 66 feet long, 30 feet wide. These things are usually, I mean, they're built like a tank. It would be ridiculously hard to dig through, and if you did, you would probably get a massive dose of radiation, and it would kill you almost, you know, within hours, maybe a couple of days. I'm not 100% on that theory. I think yes, there probably are RTGs buried throughout Europe. I think that the Soviets probably didn't bother digging them up and taking them back with them. They'd have just left them there. But this being 66 feet long, that's a hell of an RTG.
Did the UFO bury itself in the ground?
Well, what would have happened was over time, the land would have built up, wouldn't it? Like with the erosion, and you know how like they say land builds up in layers, don't they? And geologists study the layers of, like, if you look at the Grand Canyon, you can look at millions of years in the past because each layer represents a different eon. Yeah. And what would have happened is this thing would have been buried by 10,000 years worth of dirt. And, you know, plant matter that's degraded and just fallen on top of it turned to soil, and then plants have grown up in that soil and fallen on top of it, and, you know, it builds up over time. It's
when you said that they tried to excavate it out, it went further into the ground.
So I don't know how to explain that. I honestly, that is why it has kind of perked my interest so much. That's why it's got such an attraction to the UFO theory and to the theory that it's 10,000 years old. Is it one of those ancient alien UFOs that's still around today? It's still there, buried in a back garden.
If I lived
The answers
there,
are still there.
I'd
That's the
want
thing.
to dig
but
it up. If I lived in that house, I don't think I could leave it. I'd want to.
apparently, this is another thing that I didn't put down in my notes, but I've just remembered. I think it was in 1991. Even the Japanese got involved. They sent over a research team and started digging away at it, but for whatever reason, they left it alone as well. They ended up they couldn't get any results, and they walked after maybe a couple of months or whatever. But while the Soviets were there, apparently for I think something like 2 years, some of their scientists rented a room off the woman of the house and literally didn't leave the room. They were just running scientific experiments from the room, just pulling pieces of metal up and doing their studies and whatnot. They paid her quite a bit of money for the chance to have a room in her house, and she just give them bed and breakfast or whatever, and they virtually never left their room apparently. But she was well paid for the privilege of being able to actually be on site 24/7. So I mean, it's a mystery, man.
That's a big mystery.
Is it the oldest UFO ever discovered?
Probably. With UFOs, I've said it before. Like, it's just crazy how they go through space.
UBO, really, unidentified buried object.
Yes, yeah, UBO, an UBO.
An UBO.
No, that's my African cousin. So, what? UBO is a name in Africa.
Is it?
Yeah. But why do they go through light years and millions of light years and then just crash?
Well, at least they didn't do it in America this time.
Yeah, that's true. They do seem to have a lot of UFOs in America. Yeah, it's just odd, isn't it? Well, I mean, it would have been a glacier, you said.
Yeah, that's the best theory, is that they crashed into a glacier. The glacier transported it down towards the sea from the highlands, and then when it melted, it just settled on the floor and then got covered by years and years, decades, hundreds, millennia of years of worth of dirt, and ended up 25 feet underground.
Okay. I like the mystery. It's left me with more questions than answers. So for that reason, I'm going to give it an 8.925.
Oh, you had to be awkward, didn't you?
Just give it an 8.9. Yeah.
Well, I really like it, man. Like I say, I actually stumbled across this when I was looking into
Bogs and swamps.
Yeah, the bogs, the Caillou Bog. I did have a note on my phone about the Caillou Bog. In fact, let me just find it. Because someone on the forum, they asked her about the Caillou Bog, and she said, yeah, Estonia is an interesting place. Someone asked about my personal experiences. Yeah, well, back in 1988, when we moved to our country house near Caillou Swamp, the first thing that happened was in our first year. My mum woke up and saw a big shiny object with blue lights outside, and all our rooms were also full of blue light. She wanted to wake others, but didn't. She still doesn't know why. After she was in some paralyzed state and saw a big round blue object coming to our yard, it was like someone was checking us out after we moved there. But I must say I had serious phobia of darkness since we moved there, and I slept only in the same room with Mum and Dad. In my early 20s, I had a sudden flashback about some alien-looking greys walking around in our bedroom in the dark. One looked at my mother, and others just stood there. I'm skeptical. I never say that this happened, but it feels like a real memory. Later, we saw different strange objects, little star-like ones, that stood still and then flew away with incredible speed. One bigger bluish object and many small ones flying into it like a mothership. 1996 was an incredible year for some reason. All our family saw things, even my granny, who was 96 years old and almost blind. She was very excited one morning and said she saw a large flaming fireball outside her window which floated up and down. It's been a long time quiet now. We sometimes wonder, where did they go so suddenly?
So mysterious, a blind woman saw it. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, apparently this Caillou Swamp place is just full of like people who have their little stories like that, you know, claiming to have seen UFOs and whatnot. And that's what I was looking into when I found this buried UFO, and I just couldn't let it down. I don't think any other podcast would have found this one, or any YouTube channel that I've ever found or seen has covered it. I've not found it anywhere else. I literally just this above top secret, and most of the links that they were supplying to their research sources are now dead. When I was trying to follow them for the original like news articles and stuff like that, it was just coming up page 404, page not found, you know, error, you know, all this sort of thing. Literally, that is the only site that I could find left. I did try and get a hold of Igor Volk. Dell, our Estonian listener, she managed to find his email address. I did send him an email asking if he could give me some kind of personal account from his experience there. Didn't get a response, so I've just had to go ahead and do this episode without it. But I mean, yeah, it's there's so many people, like acclaimed researchers, that were involved in this investigation, and for some reason they've just filled in the hole and walked away and left it and gone, right, we need to forget about that. So I'm going to give it a 9.3.
That's fair.
Which would make the average 9.1.
And there was a lot of countries involved as well.
Yeah.
All wanting to claim the UFO, discover it, research on it.
So what do you think at home? What do you think? Do you think it's a UFO that crash landed in the Ice Age? Or do you think it's more likely an RTG? Is there some other explanation that we haven't thought of, that the people back in 2010 on the forum didn't think of? Let us know. Paranormality.uk@gmail.com, or on our Discord, or just in the comments section below if you're watching this on YouTube. But yeah, I thought that was a good mystery. Good one to share.
It is a good mystery because I'm still thinking about it as you're talking.
And I'm trying to sign off and you're just not saying anything. So
no, because I'm generally confused by half the stories. Like everything that you've said. I'm like, galleon, iron, buried the hole again. Why would they not try and take some more like samples?
Maybe
That's
they
the other
did.
thing.
Maybe they did, but we just don't know about it. I mean, you know, Soviets were big on their secrecy. Still are. Well, not the Soviets, but Russians are.
Yeah, they are quite secretive, aren't they? Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
I think it's a good one.
I think it's like many other people. Well, I think other people will be like me and they'll try and think about it even more.
I think we're probably going to flush out some skeptics here, but I think some people are going to be believers as well. I'm a bit of a believer, to be honest.
I'm just thinking, like, if it's not an RTG,
yeah,
it has to be a UFO. Like,
Maybe.
What else could it be? Because, like you said, with the nuclear thing, like radiation and stuff, like there's just so much to it.
Yeah,
I'm changing it. I think it's a 9.1.
But that would give us a 9.2 average.
Yeah, it's just too much of a mystery. It has to be in the 9s.
Okay.
It's got me baffled, mate.
Well, I'm going to let you carry on, think about it, and until next week, I've been Pirate.
I think I'm Josh.
This has been Paranormality UK. Ta-ta.
Ta-ta. Yeah, ta-ta.